the father of the missing 12-year-old boy, Charlie. With me is his father, Charlie Bothell. Charlie.
Meet Charlie, a 12-year-old boy who vanished on June 14, 2014. His father, Charlie Bothell, frantically went door to door asking neighbors for help, while both local police and the FBI launched an intensive search. For days, it seemed like everyone was desperately trying to find him. Then came a shocking twist. While Charlie's father was live on air with Nancy Grace, the truth behind the boy's disappearance began to unravel, revealing secrets his father never expected would come to light.
Now, this is just a report that we are hearing out of Detroit that we're trying to confirm. Everybody in New York, please get on it. Let me know when we get Charlie Langton from WWJ. We are hearing that the missing 12-year-old boy has been found alive and well in his father's basement. Now, this is what I don't understand why you guys would have reported he's missing, and all our viewers have been on the lookout for him.
We've been on the lookout for him. We searched that entire house repeatedly. The FBI searched, Detroit police searched. We've all searched. Oh, God, they brought dogs, everything. Everybody is searched. What? Oh, God, my son.
Have you checked your cell phone?
My cell phone is dead. I actually getting down here, I left it in the car charging because it had died on me.
When children go missing, parents are often pushed to the edge of a breakdown. The last thing anyone wants to believe is that the parents themselves may be involved. In this case, the circumstances surrounding the discovery of a missing 12-year-old made the truth even more difficult to untangle. Did both parents know he was right beneath their feet? How did police searches miss him in the first place? And what exactly happened during those 11 days? Today's case is one that has sparked endless speculation. It was heavily covered in national news, including by Nancy Grace, and to this day, controversy surrounds it. It was 2014 in Detroit, Michigan. The Bothell family lived on the 1300 block of Nicolay in a condo building. The father, 47-year-old Charles Bothell IV, was a registered nurse and ran his own business. His wife, Monique Dillard-Bothell, was Charlie's stepmother. Together they were raising 3 children, 12-year-old Charles Bothell, who went by Charlie, along with his half-siblings, a 4-year-old boy and a 10-month-old baby girl. Family acquaintances described them as quiet and seemingly normal. Charlie split time between his biological mother and his father's household, but at this point, he was living primarily with his father and stepmother. On June 14, 2014, the family was thrust into the spotlight in the worst way imaginable. Charles and Monique reported Charlie missing. His father told police that Charlie had been at home working out, stepped away to use the bathroom, and never returned. Detroit Police Chief James Craig led the investigation, and within a day the public was informed and urged to help in the search. Investigators began canvassing the neighborhood, asking residents with surveillance cameras to review their footage. The tapes confirmed that Charlie had been outside on June 14th, taking out the garbage. After that moment, however, he was not seen again. Charles and Monique suggested that Charlie might have run away, pointing out that he had done so once before, 2 years earlier. At that time, police quickly found him wandering around the neighborhood just a few hours later. On this day, June 14th, Charlie had refused to complete his workout and chores. His stepmother warned him she would tell his father, and investigators believed that may have motivated him to leave. By June 18th, 4 days into the disappearance, cadaver dogs and tracking dogs were brought to the Bothell home. Teams searched every inch of the residence, including the basement, but found nothing pointing to Charlie's whereabouts. The following day, June 19th, Sergeant Paul Peschmark was assigned to lead the investigation. Detectives were no longer ruling out the possibility of foul play. On June 24th, a search warrant was issued for the Bothell residence. Around this same time, Charles had taken a polygraph test at the request of investigators. The results, however, were deemed inconclusive. While police combed through the home again, Charles appeared on Nancy Grace, pleading for the public's help in finding his son. Then came a shocking moment. During the live broadcast, Nancy Grace suddenly grew serious. She told Charles that reports were coming in from Detroit, that his son had been found alive in the family's own basement. Visibly stunned, Charles stammered, insisting that both he and law enforcement had checked the basement multiple times. He explained that the FBI, Detroit police, cadaver dogs, and even his wife had searched there with no sign of Charlie. Yet now investigators had indeed located the boy. Charlie was discovered in a concealed area of the basement, behind a barricade of boxes and a heavy 5-pound barrel. This section of the condo's basement connected to a tunnel and storage closets. When police found him, he was alive, coherent, and only said that he was hungry.
And he appeared to be hiding back there, or you said he could not have erected this little hiding place by himself?
In my judgment, based on what was described, I didn't see what it looked like prior to my arrival, but there's no way he could have erected this makeshift area of concealment, I'll call it. He certainly was excited to see us. I had a chance to actually talk and embrace Charlie. Very excited to see us. I mean, this is a great story.
It really is a great story, because just earlier today, you folks said that you had not ruled out that he could be a victim of a homicide. So what does this mean in terms of the investigation? Are the parents now being questioned? What's happening next?
Well, what it means is, first of all, let me just applaud the work of the investigators. We had a collaborative, the FBI, state police, DPD, all working together diligently, very thorough. And this was, in fact, the 4th time we've been to this location. And one of our visits, we came with a cadaver dog. So we're not certain that Charlie was here doing those visits, not certain at all. Because the question I would have, how could we miss? Certainly we know when there's a missing and we go into a family home, we check places that children can hide. Sometimes if children are afraid, they will hide and conceal themselves. But for whatever reason, I don't know what it looked like the first several visits, but certainly this time the detective who was in that area thought something was strange and began to moving, and Charlie didn't alert his presence.
It was only when you found him.
It was only, and you could see that he was nervous but excited and glad to see the police.
Describe his condition. What was his condition? Like, did he look like he was hungry or what?
Well, he indicated he was hungry. Certainly, I saw evidence that there was food around the area where he was hiding. But he seemed to be both nervous and excited. In terms of his medical condition, he's being medically evaluated now. So I don't know what the doctors are going to find during that examination, but he appeared fine when I saw him.
And Chief, what about his parents? Live on Local 4. Talk about that moment when the investigators came in contact with Charlie. How did he respond? What did he say?
Excitement. I don't know his exact words. I guess you could describe it as nervousness, excitement. He made some statements that I wasn't there then, but certainly lots of excitement to see us.
What did the parents
Talk about the parents.
Did the parents know?
His parents aren't here right now, correct?
That's correct.
The father told us he was going to go and do an interview with Nancy Grace a little while ago. The mother, once we told her that you guys were looking into the possibility of a homicide, the stepmother, I should say, she took off. Is there any reason to believe that some adult had to know Charlie was in that house?
I will tell you, we're not ruling that out. It would be hard for me to sit here and tell you that someone didn't know that Charlie was there. But I can't say definitively.
Chief, you described this area that was barricaded that even looked like someone had put food there. You said Charlie could not have erected this barricade himself.
There's no way, in my judgment, I can't see how he could have. We're talking about a 5-gallon drum. We're talking about a 12-year-old child. Certainly, I don't see how he could have done it.
Describe the environment where he was at.
He was in the basement. Certainly there was some bedding. It appeared to be some kind of wooden, looked like a wooden stand that was nearby the area where Charlie was at. And then the drum, by the time I arrived at the location, the drum had been moved by the investigators.
And you all don't believe that he had been there the entire time? Because you all searched this, but police searched this home several times.
Four times.
But today, that's when you all found the barricade in the basement.
But we're not certain that he was there each and every time. As I pointed out, I think what's telling is that we had a cadaver dog go into the location. And
And the cadaver dog found nothing?
Found nothing.
Chief, for people that are just tuning in right now, kind of bring everybody up to speed on what happened. We know that 12-year-old Charlie, who's been missing for a week and a half, has been found alive in the very basement of the house where he was last seen here. Bring everybody up to speed.
Charlie's alive. Charlie's excited, and we're excited. We're as excited as Charlie. In fact, Charlie wanted to meet me, and I promised Charlie that once he gets through this part of the ordeal, we're certainly he's gonna visit the chief's office.
Did you notify
and tell where he's found,
Chief?
where he was found.
Have the parents been notified?
I can't go into the notification. I'm not certain. I came here for one specific reason. I wanted to see, and I wanted to touch Charlie.
And he was
Does it appear that Charlie has been a victim of abuse?
I'm sorry.
He was hiding in the basement, but not in a way where you think he could have done it himself.
That's my judgment, my opinion, based on what I saw, but I can't be sure. I mean, we're talking about a 5-gallon drum, and so not certain.
But Chief, based on what you saw, does he appear to be a victim of abuse? Was he bruised? Was he?
I didn't examine Charlie. That's the medical professionals will do that. Certainly, he was talkative. He was excited. I didn't do an examination, so I can't.
Chief, since finding Charlie, have you had a chance to have a conversation with his parents about you finding him? Do they know?
I have not, and I am not certain that the investigators, they may have made contact with the parents. I would hope that the father, who is now doing a show on Nancy Grace, that someone would interrupt the show and advise him that the location you just left, your home, your son was downstairs.
And the mom has disappeared. Do you not find this a little odd?
I find a lot of things odd, but, you know, my opinion doesn't count at this point. But the one thing I will say, I'm excited that Charlie is alive.
Chief, we know the biological mother has never been considered a person of interest in this case. We're talking about Charlie lives in that house with his dad and his stepmother. What happens with them at this point? Where do your investigators go with them when they actually return to the house?
It depends. Certainly, if we, through the course of our investigation, determine that there's evidence of child abuse, and our investigation will take a turn in that direction. But at this point, there's a process that must be followed, and certainly the Wayne County prosecutor is directly involved in this. And so once that process is completed, we'll know if any charges will be filed against either or both custodial parents.
As soon as Charles arrived home from the interview with Nancy Grace, the media was already waiting for him. Here is what he had to say.
Chief, this is the father.
Your reaction to your son being found?
Man, no, I didn't know that he was in the basement. I searched, my wife searched. We've had dozens of police officers, FBI agents here, dogs. We've all been searching for my son. You know, so any intimation that I knew that he was in there somehow, it's absurd. Literally, I couldn't find him. You know, if the FBI couldn't find him and the Detroit police couldn't find him, for anybody to intimate, they did finally, yeah. They've been living in my house for the last 10, 11 days. They've been here. We looked into my basement. I looked into my basement. They looked. They went down there with search dogs. My wife looked before she called me.
When was the last time you looked for your son down there?
The last time I looked for my son down there was a few days ago, before the FBI did, before they came with the dogs. No, I've been in the basement, but
Has he ever hidden in the basement before? Has he ever hidden down there before?
No, he hasn't.
We heard that your ex-wife may have been hiding him down there from you and feeding him.
That's absurd. And my ex-wife did not take off. The FBI or the task force was here executing a search warrant. They forced my wife to leave. I was here. You guys were here. They stated we could not be in the house while the search was being executed. That was a decision of law enforcement, not the decision of my wife.
How surprised are you that he was found in the basement?
I'm shocked because I looked, like I said, the Detroit police looked, the FBI looked repeatedly. They've been through here. They've been in my house until 3 in the morning on occasions and all night. When that lieutenant kept me and my family at the police station from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The Detroit police and the task force were here all night executing search warrants. So to say that, you know, for anybody to imply that I somehow knew that my son was in the basement, it's absurd and it's wrong. I love my son. I'm glad that he's home and he's going to have the great future that he deserves to have.
Well, no one
period.
talked to you earlier today. There was deeper concern, perhaps, about a homicide.
Yeah, man, you broke my heart with that, man.
But tell me about your range of emotions based on what the police were.
Man, they thought my son was dead, man.
Have you seen your son yet?
No, I haven't.
Do you know where he is?
Where's your wife? Where's your wife at right now?
No, I don't.
Where's
My
your
wife,
wife?
she left. They wouldn't let her in the house. But I want to see my son.
Okay. Okay. You.
Police Chief James Craig admitted confusion over the discovery. The home had been searched several times, including with dogs, without results. He noted that Charlie appeared to have been hiding, but it was unlikely the 12-year-old had constructed the barricaded space on his own. There's no way he could have erected this makeshift area of concealment by himself, Craig said. He was excited to see us. This is the 4th time we had been to this location, even with a cadaver dog, and still nothing until now. Authorities could not say for certain whether Charlie had been in the home during all of their previous searches. The question we all had, one investigator explained, was how could we have missed him? In missing child cases, law enforcement always checks common hiding spots. Children who are frightened sometimes conceal themselves, but in this instance, the basement had already been searched multiple times. On the day Charlie was found, a detective noticed something unusual in the area and began moving items around. Charlie didn't initially reveal himself but appeared nervous, yet relieved when he was discovered. When asked about his condition, investigators said he had indicated he was hungry. Food was visible in the area where he had been hiding, but medically he seemed fine at first glance and was sent for evaluation at a hospital. At the time of his discovery, Charlie's parents were not at home. His father was appearing on Nancy Grace pleading for help to find his son, while his stepmother reportedly left after learning police were exploring the possibility of homicide. She also allegedly refused to take a polygraph test. After Charlie was rescued, police first took him to get food at McDonald's before bringing him to the hospital for a full medical checkup. Meanwhile, Dillard-Bothell returned from his Nancy Grace appearance to find reporters gathered in his yard. He gave an impromptu interview, forcefully denying any suggestion that he had known his son was in the basement. Reporters pressed him about rumors that his ex-wife might have been hiding Charlie from him, but he called those claims absurd as well. He and his wife had been ordered to leave the house while law enforcement conducted their work. When asked if Charlie had access to the house, Charles admitted they had extra keys lying around. So, yes, it's possible, he said, though he hadn't checked to see if any were missing. Attention then turned to the issue of lie detector tests. It was noted that Monique had declined one with Detroit police. Charles explained that while he had refused theirs due to how he felt his family was treated, he had later agreed to one with the FBI. Charles also defended himself against suspicions of abuse or worse. Investigators had taken evidence from the home, including samples suggesting blood. He strongly denied any wrongdoing. There was no abuse of my son. There was no murder. People accused me of being a killer, but that was nonsense then, and it's nonsense now. On June 26th, Charlie was officially cleared medically. While he had marks on his upper body, he was considered in stable condition. At this stage, he was not permitted contact with either his father or stepmother. Instead, he was placed in the care of his biological mother, a woman named Africa. Police and the FBI continued interviewing Charlie to piece together what had really happened during those 11 days. Meanwhile, Monique was located and arrested, not in connection with Charlie's disappearance, but for violating a prior parole. She had been on probation for 2 years due to a misdemeanor gun charge, and when she was found in possession of another firearm, she was jailed, given a $5,000 bond, and ordered to wear an ankle monitor upon release. Charles later picked her up when she was released. Back at Africa's home, Charlie slowly began healing. After nearly 2 weeks, she shared that her son was finally starting to laugh again. Getting his smile back, she said, was the best thing ever. Charlie's biological mother said it would take time for him to heal, but with the love of family, he would eventually return to normal. His aunt, Alicia, added that while she had spoken to him often, Charlie avoided discussing what happened during those 11 days. Instead, he spent his time playing computer games and watching superhero movies. The mother's side of the family insisted they had no idea Charlie had been abused, but if the allegations were true, they believed Charles and Monique deserved serious punishment. Despite speculation, Charles continued to deny any involvement in Charlie's disappearance or abuse. Much of the suspicion stemmed from marks found on Charlie's chest, which some believed were signs of mistreatment. At this time, Charlie remained in his biological mother's care, while his younger siblings were placed in foster care before eventually being moved to relatives. Charles and Monique were only allowed holiday and weekend visitation rights. The case seemed to quiet down until April 2015, nearly 10 months later, when Charles and Monique were arrested and charged with 1 count of torture, a felony carrying a maximum penalty of life in prison, and second-degree child abuse. During the trial, Charlie, then about 13 or 14 years old, took the stand. His testimony was chilling. Charlie's own testimony on the record painted a different picture than what had been suggested. He stated that he was subjected to intense workouts daily, which included 100 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, 100 jumping jacks, 25 arm curls with a 25-pound weight, and thousands of revolutions on an elliptical machine, all to be completed in 1 hour. Charlie said his stepmother placed him in the basement and told him not to come out no matter what he hears. Charlie testified he often got a whooping with a stick or PVC pipe on his buttocks. He said most of the alleged abuse took place at the hands of his father, although he said his stepmother beat him a few times as well. Sometimes she would punch me, and I got choked once. He said that he was so depressed and sad and upset about being at his father's house that he once tried to commit suicide by cutting his wrist. He stated that he spent weekends with his biological mother, that he had opportunities to see his cousins, go to the park, and even travel out of state to visit his grandfather. In earlier interviews, however, Charlie had said that any time he left the Nicolay home, he was never unsupervised by Charles or Monique. His testimony in court directly contradicted that, since he admitted he had gone to visit family and other places without them. What was clear from the record was that Charlie had been homeschooled due to academic struggles and behavioral issues. The judge emphasized that homeschooling alone could not be taken as evidence of isolation or cruelty intended to torture him. The doctor who testified had based her findings on the idea that Charlie was deprived of food and water, but Charlie's own accounts were inconsistent. At one point, he said Monique brought him food and drinks while he was in the basement. Later, he claimed he would sneak upstairs for food, and in an FBI interview, he said Monique never gave him anything at all. These contradictions weakened his credibility. Medical records also showed that when Charlie was admitted to the hospital, he was described as well-nourished. This conflicted with claims of prolonged deprivation. Another detail noted by the court was Charlie's testimony that he had not had a bowel movement in 10 days. Yet he also testified that he would sneak upstairs to use the bathroom. The judge found these accounts not just inconsistent, but irreconcilable. Here is a part of little Charlie's testimony in court.
I was told to basically lay across the table, the dining room table, and I basically got spanked on the butt.
With what? Anything?
A wooden stick or a short bowl, and then a plastic PVC pipe.
All at the same time?
Yes.
What did she do?
Sometimes she would punch me, or I got choked once.
By her or someone else?
Her.
Can you tell us where you had injuries?
On my butt.
Well, how do you know it was injured? What
because the skin was split open.
How do you know that?
I could feel it, and I saw it before.
Okay. What would happen when the skin would be broken, if you can tell us?
It would bleed.
In the end, the judge concluded, "I don't believe he was in that basement for 10 days. I don't believe his movements were restricted. The police, FBI, recovery teams, and even cadaver dogs searched the home multiple times, and no one found him." His testimony is simply not credible. When this ruling was announced, Charles and Monique hugged their attorneys in tears. Their bond was reduced from $500,000 to $50,000, though they were ordered to wear ankle monitors if released, and to have no contact with their children. The court also reviewed text messages exchanged between Charles and Monique on the evening Charlie disappeared. Around 7:20 p.m., their conversation centered on Charlie's exercise regimen, specifically that he had not completed the required 4,000 revolutions on the elliptical. Charles was quoted as saying, "We need to get this money, and I'm going to gear him towards completing one of these law schools I'm about to attend. He lacks the discipline, character, and drive to be a doctor, nurse, or scientist. Maybe with time and continued effort he'll improve, but I have no reason to be hopeful right now. Let's get this money and get him gone." The defense argued that when Charles said, "Get this money and get him gone," He was referring to sending Charlie to a boarding school, not abandoning him. They explained that Charlie was a troubled child who often lied, stole, and fought at school, which is why his parents were considering this option. His homeschooling was also presented as a result of these behavioral struggles. Charlie's aunt testified that he had been sent to live with his father due to declining grades and behavioral problems at his mother's house. They believed his father's more structured environment would help him. His father also testified that Charlie thrived when given routine and discipline. The defense introduced a note allegedly written by Charlie 5 months before he went missing. In it, Charlie admitted to putting bleach and window cleaner on the family's dishes to make them sick so he could return to live with his mom. However, Charlie later claimed in court that his stepmother forced him to write the note. It was further revealed that Charlie's doctor had recommended he lose weight, which explained the exercise routine his father enforced. The prosecution, however, described this program as extreme and compared Charles's role to that of a prison warden, with Charlie as the prisoner. The defense countered that Charlie chose to hide in the basement for 11 days on his own, while the prosecution maintained he had been forced into it. Charles's adult daughter also testified, saying her father was being unfairly portrayed. She stated that he never harmed his children and made them exercise because diabetes ran in the family. She recalled running a mile every morning under his rules, but emphasized that the routine helped her lose weight and stay healthy. One neighbor claimed that Charlie freely came and went from the home, and even alleged that during the 11 days he was supposedly missing, they saw him outside playing basketball. However, these sightings were never confirmed, and no surveillance footage ever supported them. At the time, the basement doors of the condos were usually kept locked, but they were reportedly left open because residents needed access to the indoor dumpster. The outside dumpster was overflowing, so people were allowed to use the one inside. Some theorized that this gave Charlie a way to slip in and out undetected, which might explain why police never found him during their searches. He may not have been there when they looked. Monique reportedly accepted a plea deal that involved no jail time, though the details were never made public. It was also claimed that her record could be cleared after 6 months if she stayed out of trouble. A spokesperson later said it was illegal to discuss why this happened, leaving the full reasoning a mystery. Charles initially said he would not accept a plea deal, but on January 19, 2016, he changed his mind, explaining that he didn't have the money to continue fighting to clear his name. The case was resolved when Charles pleaded guilty to 4th-degree child abuse in exchange for removal of the 2nd-degree child abuse charges. Charles also admitted to beating his son with a pipe. He received 18 months of probation, mandatory anger management classes, and an order of no contact with Charlie. Charles later said the case had devastated his family and finances, and he simply wanted to move forward. Prosecutors agreed the resolution was fair, believing it gave Charlie a chance to move on as well. Just a month later, Charles filed a lawsuit against Nancy Grace and Time Warner Incorporated, claiming they aired false and damaging information about him in the case. He argued this coverage cost him his job and forced him to shut down his business. The lawsuit, however, was ultimately dismissed. Today, Charlie would be about 23 years old, but little is known about his current life. That leaves many unanswered questions. Did both parents know more than they admitted? Was only one involved? Or was Charlie truly sneaking around, hiding in plain sight and returning to the basement only when discovered? Charlie himself admitted at one point that he could leave to get food, which casts doubt on the idea that he was trapped the entire time. His father's emotional yet sometimes oddly inconsistent reactions in interviews have fueled debate. Was he truly distraught or putting on a performance? And as for Monique, little is publicly known about her perspective. She gave no interviews, no personal statements, and her role remains one of the murkiest parts of the case. What do you think? Was Charlie really confined, or was he coming and going unnoticed? Was this a case of cruelty, or a deeply troubled family caught in a storm of conflicting accounts?